Hey everyone, welcome to the People and Perks podcast. Each week, we're going to sit down with an employee benefits vendor and give you insights into the best benefits on the market so you can make better decisions for your people. I'm Sean, founder of Perkwise, the UK's first employee benefits discovery and review platform.
And I'm Adam, an employee benefits consultant at Wingate Benefit Solutions. And today we're very pleased to be joined by Hugo from Electric Car Scheme. Hugo, how you doing?
Yes, very well, thank you. Thank you both for inviting me here. Super excited to having our chat.
Yeah, no worries. So tell us a little bit about yourself, like how long have you been with the company, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So I joined the electric car scheme almost 4 years ago, so almost coming up to my anniversary. And when I joined, we were still a fairly new startup. I was around the 27th employee. And I originally joined in the sales team, and I was in the sales team for almost about 2.5 years. And I have spent the past 18 months as a partnership manager, where I'm kind of growing our kind of partnership function, supporting all of our partners, making sure that they have all of the relevant materials, whether it be marketing materials or kind of tech from an integration perspective, to ensure that they can shout about the electric car scheme and kind of offer us out to all of their clients.
Nice.
So yeah, that's a bit about me and what I've been doing.
Cool. And which four-legged friend are you joined with by today?
Can you hear him?
Yeah.
Oh no!
It's
I was
fine.
hoping he was going to be quiet. He's 7 months old. He's a little
Okay.
cockapoo, and his name's Benji. He always likes to pipe up when I go onto a video call.
Yeah, no worries.
Good timing.
Yeah. Awesome. So look, great to have you on, you and Benji anyway. So I guess today we're talking about big impact, zero budget. This is the benefit that I think every employer should know about. So I guess thinking about the business landscape over the past year or so and beyond, I would say employers are probably facing one of the toughest pressures they would have seen in a long time. Rising NI levels, wage hikes, thresholds, all of that sort of stuff, really putting a lot of pressure on businesses in general, but I guess more so on HR teams who are caught between this rock and a hard place of finance saying, we've got budgets and, we need to contain benefit spend, all of that sort of stuff. And then we've got employees who want more, right? Like when people are looking to move to a new company, or, if they want to stay at a company, they want a benefits package that supports them across, multiple facets, I guess. And I thought that was, really interesting when we last spoke, Hugo, around like how you guys position yourselves to the market. What have you been seeing from employers over the past few years?
Yeah, absolutely. So especially since the national insurance hike, I think that was probably a year and a half ago now almost, or it might have even been last April. We're seeing a lot of employers looking towards salary sacrifice benefits as a way of, first of all, saving money for the business, and then they could obviously look at repurposing that however they wish to do so, but also it's a great way to help an employee's money go further. Obviously, the mechanisms of salary sacrifice, it means that the employee gets to sacrifice part of their gross salary in exchange for a benefit, and therefore they see quite significant tax savings. So yeah, I think salary sacrifice is kind of the talk of the town for employers at the moment. Obviously, in the recent budget announcement, we saw that it was potentially going to impact pensions in a couple of years, but for now, it's kind of here to stay.
And I guess you've touched on something there when you're talking about employees as well and helping them. So we all know that we kind of are in still cost of living crisis. Employees are under a lot of pressure, having to make their wages go further. Whether that's shopping or whether it's having and maintaining a car. I guess like the way the scheme is set up is designed to support people, right? And help them with those cost pressures when it comes to having a car. Have you seen what's the sort of take ups you see with the platform, and where do you see, I guess, do you have any information on like demographics of people who use it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and you're absolutely right in regards to cars in general is a significant expense for everyone really. You have kind of your house, so your mortgage or rent. And then if you have kids, that's probably your second largest expense. And then after that, it's a car, right? They're expensive to purchase. They can be expensive to lease. And then obviously you've got to pay for fuel. Price of fuel fluctuates, etc. So it is quite an expensive commodity to essentially have. And so looking into getting an EV, if that is the route that you want to go down, salary sacrifice is definitely the most affordable and accessible way to do so. I did actually pull a couple stats from one of our clients who are a large food delivery service. They have around 2,300 eligible employees. Their actual total employee count is significantly higher, but they launched it to kind of 2,300 employees. Out of those 2,300 employees, they then ran a survey. 95% of employees said that they really liked having the benefit in place. Over 50% of the employees had engaged with the benefit. So I know from speaking with other kind of clients before that engagement, when you are actually launching a benefit, can be quite low, and it can be quite difficult to try and get that engagement up. You know, HR teams spend a lot of time and energy putting in a benefit. So being able to then actually see the rewards of that through employees actually engaging with that is really, really exciting. But then you also have the flip side, which is the employer's side. We saw a 65% carbon reduction in their transport emissions through having this benefit. And as part of being with the electric car scheme, we do provide environmental impact reports at the end of every year. So it really supports the kind of I guess the ESG credentials, whilst also helping employees save money.
For those who don't know much about like salary sacrifice or the scheme that you provide, could you go into a bit more detail around like what this looks like in practice and the benefit that you provide to employees and employers?
Absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen to give you a bit of a demo as to kind of what the savings actually look like for an employee and how kind of impactful that can be. So I'm going to jump into a demo kind of portal, which is what all of our clients essentially have access to. And this is where you'll meet James. James will input his salary, and then he'll be able to look at the new cars, used cars, which is really exciting. Let's say, for example, I was interested in the new Renault 5. You select the car. I'll just kind of whiz through here and I'll take it through to the end because that's where you see the actual savings and the kind of how lucrative this can be as a benefit. But essentially you could choose the length of the lease, the mileage you expect to drive, servicing, maintenance, tyres, MOT, breakdown cover. That's all automatically included and built in. You then have some optional extras. So, a home charger, etc. So you can see the kind of difference there. And then you can kind of customize the car. I'm just going to take it through to the end. And this is where you can see a real breakdown. So if I zoom in slightly, you can see that this vehicle would typically cost an employee £362 a month. So if you were to lease this car outside of salary sacrifice, you'll be paying £362 a month for this vehicle. However, you're now paying £275. So that's the net cost and the change in take-home pay. If I scroll down, you can see exactly how those savings are realized. So this employee is sacrificing £362 from their take-home pay. So that's taken off from their gross, not from their take-home pay, which means it's pre-tax. As a result of that, they're going to see a saving in income tax of £102, a national insurance saving of £20. There is a small benefit in kind, also known as company car tax, which is set at 3%. So you can see the net cost is now £275 rather than that £362. So across the duration of the lease, which is 3 years, they're saving the equivalent of just shy of £3,200.
Nice. And I guess so. A couple of questions from me. So when EVs first launched, I would say that these type of benefits were probably a bit of a misconception, were like for senior staff, right? They were the people who were earning a bit more, wanted a brand new Tesla that could afford, upwards to a grand a month or whatever for a car.
Yeah.
You've got quite a lot of models on there, but you also do used cars, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and you're absolutely right in regards to 3 or 4 years ago when companies were launching benefits like this, they were typically looking to launch it to a select pool within their workforce. And I worked in the sales team. I kind of experienced that firsthand, which obviously it can feel a bit unfair because obviously you have certain employees that have access to it, whereas the rest kind of don't. Now, about a year and a half ago, we ran a trial with used EVs to see one if there was kind of interest in it, and also just to see kind of how it performed. And after a very successful kind of couple of months trialing these used EVs, we realized that actually these are very, very popular. And we now actually have the largest selection of used EVs on the market, which is really, really exciting. And some nice stats on this, which show that it's around 76% of employees in the lower tax bracket are opting in for a used EV rather than a new EV. And that's just because the price point is obviously lower. They're still getting their fantastic savings through the salary sacrifice mechanism, but obviously the actual gross cost is now reduced as it is a used EV rather than a new EV. And I mean, to be fair, when you do look for a car in general, whether it's petrol, diesel, electric, whatever it may be, majority of the time you will probably get a used car rather than a new car because it's just more affordable and accessible. But what's really excited about having that used car proposition is that when we are launching to our clients, we're now able to open it up to a wider proportion of the workforce. It's a lot more inclusive. And it's just making it the uptake significantly higher. And also from a business's perspective, it helps improve kind of staff retention and happiness at work and whatnot.
How are you? So just on that last point that you mentioned, because obviously, employers get these benefits because at the end of the day, they want to create a really exciting place for people to come and work. They want to, attract talent and retention. How are you able to kind of tie this benefit back to those key metrics that employers are looking for?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we we do a lot of work in regards to when we do kind of launch a benefit like this. We do a lot of work with the HR kind of team within that organization to ensure that we are continuously keeping employees engaged. So whether that's through webinars, kind of email campaigns, we do like to host drive days, etc. as well, which is a really great way to kind of get some vehicles out to that client. Obviously there needs to be space to have those cars, but they can do test drives, etc. And we also like to sometimes tie in our benefit with other benefits. So let's say, for example, company A has launched a cycle to work scheme as well as a car scheme. We'd love to kind of do almost a joint event where we can showcase our benefit alongside other benefits that they also have in place. It makes it feel a lot more jointed up. It also means employees are able to kind of view and see their benefits in action all in one place. So rather than feeling a bit more kind of disjointed, we're able to kind of bring it all together. And then we also support with surveys and stuff like that as well.
And I guess on that, the retention piece, so in my mind, that's a big one really, because if I was to get a car through you guys and I got a 3 or 4 year lease, tell us a little bit around the logistics of it. So if I've got a car, can I return the car? What if I leave the employer? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. And that is typically the main area of concern for an employer. So when we set up the electric car scheme just over 5 years ago, there are 3 kind of main areas that we wanted to focus on. So the first one was the employee. So how do we ensure we're getting the best price and the best deal in the market? So we went down the route of setting ourselves up as a multi-funder or a broker rather than being the lease provider itself. What that means is we're able to shop the market to find the employee the best price and the best deal rather than providing them with just one source of pricing, which is what majority of other providers do on the market. The second area that we wanted to focus on was the employer's side, so the risk. With leasing, I don't know if either of you leased before, but if you were to hand back the vehicle early, there's typically an early termination cost, which is around 50% of the remaining lease payments. So it's a pretty expensive asset to have on your books. Let's say you have 10 employees who have taken out a vehicle and you had to make mass redundancies. It can be a very costly benefit to have in place. And that is why it is typically the main kind of concern or risk to an employer. So that was an area that we really wanted to focus on. For the last 2 years, we have offered complete protection from day one. So I'm going to share my screen again, so you can just see what that looks like. But what does that actually mean for the employer? It means that we cover them from day one for redundancies, dismissal, resignation, family-friendly leave, long-term sickness, loss of license. So I think that's crucial to point out, is that we do not include any caps or limits on the amount of protection that we provide that employer. And that's really important for us, because we want the employer to open this up to as many employees as possible. And through having that complete risk protection, we're able to do so with that employer, knowing that should anything go wrong, which hopefully it wouldn't, then they are covered by us at the Electric Car Scheme.
Yeah, that's a good point to touch on. And also, like, I see that you've got not just obviously if people leave the business, but if stuff happens, your family friendly leave, like sickness, benefits need to be aligned to life events, I think. And I think it's really important that you guys have touched on that. Definitely.
So thanks so much for sharing this. So basically, for the employer, you're telling them that they've got protection from day one. It's the cost, because it's salary sacrifice, is they're not really paying anything for this benefit. I mean, it sounds like it's a bit of a no-brainer for employees, really. Like, what are you, when you're having conversations with employers, like, what are they saying? Are they focused on, obviously providing the benefit? Is there a big focus on like the ESG side of having an electric vehicle? But yeah, it'd be interesting to hear like what your clients are saying.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it really ranges, right? You have companies like companies that might have a large fleet of vehicles, and they will be looking at it from a ESG position, because they're wanting to move away from having traditional ICE vehicles as company cars towards getting a fleet of EV vehicles through salary sacrifice. So they will be looking at the angle of ESG. You then have other providers where they'll be looking at just wanting to offer their employees green initiatives in a more affordable manner. So it is a variety and range, to be honest with you, of kind of what motivates that employer to kind of look at that benefit. What I would say is that majority of employers now do have some sort of salary sacrifice car scheme in place, which is really, really great to see. And that's obviously off the back of the government incentive of helping to make that transition to net zero.
Adam, just a quick question for you. I'm actually curious, because you work with clients every day, trying to help them with their benefits package. Is this like something that is increasingly coming up and that's increasingly common?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think a lot of employers we talk to now, like Hugo has said, might already have something in place, but it'll be something that's been in there for a few years. Sometimes, they fall down that bucket of engagements dropped off a cliff, like we haven't promoted it in a few years, all of that sort of way it sort of goes. But I think a lot more, if you think about the younger generations, they're a lot more conscious of stuff like ESG and having an impact, and they want access to stuff and benefits that align with their values. So again, it is something that's coming up a lot more. Hugo, like, what would you say to an employer who has an EV scheme in place already? Obviously not with you guys, but thinks, actually, we like the look of that. Like, what does that journey look like? Is it easy to swap out, like if someone's got cars on lease already?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's obviously done on a case by case basis, because obviously there's a lot of kind of providers out there and a lot of competition. But yeah, absolutely. We typically will work with them on a case by case basis. We're more than happy to set ourselves up and have our offering run alongside their current car scheme. Typically, we would obviously advise to kind of phase out one kind of benefit and then kind of phase in another, just to make sure that it's kind of a streamlined process for that employee. I think what we typically ask is, what's your uptake been, essentially. A good uptake for us is around that kind of 10 to 15% mark. anything less, then anything less should typically you should dive into that in a little bit more detail to see kind of why are employees not engaging with this. Is it a cost issue? Is it a risk element? Could it be admin? Could it be kind of the support that they're receiving? So there's quite a few different angles that you can kind of look into, but we will always work with that potential client to kind of help support make that transition across.
Okay, cool. And in terms of, we kind of danced around it then, but the cost to the employer. So like, tell us, like, obviously there is no cost to the employer in terms of having to spend budget, but tell us how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. So our offering is cost neutral to the employer. So they're no worse off being on the offering than they were beforehand. So, and the way that works is our fee essentially equates to the employer savings. So as an employer, they're going to see two natural savings through this benefit. First saving is through employer NI, because they're paying less national insurance to that employee. And they're also going to see a saving in VAT. Now, because the leases are seen as a business contract hire lease, because it's technically through the business and it has to be salary sacrificeable, they are able to reclaim 50% of the VAT on the cost of that lease. So that national insurance saving plus the VAT recoverable equates to our fee to leave them at cost neutral. Now we do run, milestones. So let's say you reach a certain amount of vehicles on the road, we will then share back percentages of the national insurance with that employer, and they could obviously look at kind of reinvesting that however they wish to do so within their organization.
Nice. And what about then, like the I guess the journey for an employer? So what does it look like from implementation? Like, do you integrate with any other like HRS or payroll systems, all of that sort of stuff?
Absolutely. So the onboarding process is fairly simple. We would book in a call with the client, obviously run them through the product, answer any questions they may have. If there is something that they do want to go ahead with, we will send across our services agreement. They would then come through to our employer portal. This is where we provide, all of the administrative support that they need to actually run the offering. So that includes, payroll. They'll be able to view all of the car orders. They'll be able to approve them, reject them, etc. And that's where we also provide kind of annual impact reports. We do integrate with a lot of employee benefit platforms and HRIS platforms, like you just mentioned. So if you are using any of those platforms, just let us know, and we will hopefully be kind of working with them already, with integrations already in place. The onboarding process does require a credit application on behalf of the business in order to be able to access the vehicles. And then once that's approved, we will work with that client to schedule the launch. That includes webinars. It can include drive days, site visits, etc. And we really like to kind of drum up excitement and interest with kind of teasers before we actually launch the benefits, that employees can start to kind of get excited with that.
Nice. And I guess if you were to think about, like, what does the future look like for this benefit? Like, where do you see it going? Because I would like, if I was to share what I think, is that there's a little bit of a danger with EV schemes of becoming that tick box benefit, like something people will just say, oh yeah, we'll do that because it doesn't cost us anything, it's simple to do, and therefore engagement's pretty poor. People aren't using it, people don't understand it. Like, do you hear that much, or where do you see this going, like, in the future?
Yeah, it's a good point. The good news is, from a savings perspective, obviously the government have committed to keeping the benefit in kind low on electric cars until 2030 at least. We expect that to be extended. We're already far behind on our kind of net zero goals as a nation, and EVs, salary sacrifice EVs, has actually been the only incentive that has worked to date to kind of try and push people towards making that sustainable choice. I actually I did pull there was a survey that I pulled the other day for this call, which was done by PwC. And it actually said that 85% of consumers reported that they feel the impact of kind of climate change on a daily basis. However, the main hurdle to making a kind of sustainable or a kind of a net zero choice is the affordability. So I think being able to offer a benefit like this, yes, obviously from an employer's perspective, it's great from a ESG credentials because it says, look, we've got this nice green benefit in place, but it really is bringing down the barriers for employees to make that transition into an EV. And I think just having that option is really is great. In regards to future and other kind of areas, I know that we're hoping that we could eventually look at going into heat pumps and solar panels, and we're hoping that eventually there'll be other similar initiatives, whether it be through salary sacrifice or some other sort of mechanism. But it would be great to be able to bring in other green benefits to kind of help that push to making those green choices more affordable and accessible.
Amazing. If you had if you would have had a message for HR professionals or employees out there thinking about bringing this scheme into their company, what message would you have for them?
Yeah, it's a good one, and you kind of both said it right. It is a bit of a no-brainer. It's cost neutral to the employer, so it doesn't cost you anything to implement the benefit. We completely de-risk it by offering complete risk protection from day one, and it enables employees to save a significant amount of money and make that transition into an EV in a more affordable and accessible way. Data and stats show that bringing in benefits that employers really actually kind of value boosts staff retention. It increases kind of happiness in the workplace. So I really do think it is a bit of a no-brainer for an employer to look into.
Definitely. And I think just by looking, when you were sharing your screen with us before, it just seems like I would love to just after this call go in and try to find a car for myself and just scroll through that list of cars. They just it just looks like such a user friendly, and also it's hitting so many important areas, whether it's ESG, employee engagement, retention. So yeah, I think it's a really great benefit that you guys are offering.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one more thing that's nice about an EV car scheme and about that kind of engagement piece is that, when you do launch a car scheme, we've had it before where employers are like, oh, we're going to have, 20 people ordering a car right away. It's going to, from an admin perspective, it looks like it's going to be a bit scary and a bit of a headache. But obviously cars are, you don't just on a day go, oh, I'm actually just going to buy a car today. So it's a great benefit to have in place because the employee will opt in for that benefit when the time is right for them, right? They probably already have a car. They might already have a lease that they're in for a year or two. So having this benefit and keeping that engagement up is a great way to kind of get a steady uptake over kind of the course of 3 to 4 years. It's kind of seen as a long-term employee benefit offering rather than kind of like a short-term solution.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I do definitely like what you mentioned around the future of looking at solar panels and stuff like that. That's a real interesting place to go with it, because it obviously just shows your commitment to that net zero. But also, as employees, getting solar panels, for example, has always been that thing that you either buy a new build that's got them, or you have to fork out thousands and thousands. Whereas if you can make it easier for people to access, then I think that's a great direction to go in. But cool. So Hugo, it's been great having you on. Really interesting to learn, obviously, a little bit about, what you guys are doing and the future of the business. Hopefully for everyone watching, this has been really informative and useful for you. If you do want to learn more, head over to the PerkWide website, where Sean will have lots of information around the electric vehicle scheme. If you need advice on your benefits, need some support, please feel free to reach out to us at Wingate. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and see you all soon.
Thanks for having me.